Hello again. This is Rick Casagrande from the Eureka Gun Company with our next update on the Eureka Stockade. We last week received upwards of 10,000 parts, which brings the total collation of parts required for assembly to 99.9%. The remaining part still required, of course, is the gas block, which we destroyed during the endurance torture test a couple of weeks back. That is now being made from A1 tool steel to get everybody a fair bit of comfort with respect to reliability. With the receival of those parts, we then had to check the fitment of each part, and that's been very successful as well, with the exception of 3 parts. To give you an indication of what we have needed to do with some of the parts, only 3. The difference between a part arriving since we had the samples made. So when we had the samples, the gas piston housing screws into the gas block, which will obviously eventually be A1 tool steel, and the shoulder nips up tight to the gas block. When the actual part arrives, all of a sudden this shoulder no longer meets that shoulder by a smallest of margins. So we had to look and to see why. We measured the thread length is exactly the same. The difference purely and simply is the machinist that made the samples rounded the edge off at 45 degrees, and the machinist who made the actual parts rounded it off at 90. So it comes to a dead stop on the thread here rather than on the shoulder. So we've had to put a die on all of these parts, 500 of them, and just do an extra turn at the bottom to create a 45-degree angle so that then it would get nipped straight up and have no gap in the gas block at all. So that's been what I consider minor, but if we don't test all the parts, you don't know this is going to happen. So these sorts of things hold us up, and we're acutely aware of the timing that we've have said in the past that we would be in production or assembly. These sort of issues test us the whole way, because we don't want to be sending anything out and then having you send them back because there's a bit of a gas leak or we don't, something's wrong with it. So we want to make sure that these parts are absolutely correct. So we are getting now a hell of a lot closer with the parts that we've amended, and the others that have arrived in steel or tool steel 4140 have now gone down to Sutton's in Melbourne. They've received them this morning, and they will be hardened along with the hammers and triggers, as well as bolt carriers and bolts. It's been 12 months since we fired the first round from the Eureka Stockade in testing. We're extremely proud of where we have got to at this point in time, but obviously we would rather see the firearm in your hands rather than ours. And we are doing all we can to make sure that that happens in the best and most reliable manner. Please bear with us. We understand that some of you have applied for your PTAs and that they may be getting close to running out. With this, we apologise. We do own the timeline. Nobody else does. It's our problem. There are different issues in different states with timing. Some states want a serial number, some don't. So it's always an issue. And to be fair, we have been fighting a hell of a lot of issues with relation to weapons licensing requirements, both in Queensland and New South Wales. And this causes us a lot of grief because it takes time away from what we really want to be doing. And what we really want to be doing is getting this firearm to market as soon as we can. So please bear with us. And I promise you that when we produce this firearm to you in your hands, you will be very, very happy with the product and be glad that it is Australian made. With respect to the 9mm, we're still pretty much in the same situation as we were at the last update. The barrels supply worldwide is an issue. The actual supplier of the Eureka barrels has given us a timeline of 18 to 23 weeks to produce barrels for the 9mm. We are currently looking at other sources that can give us a quality and reliable barrel. We'd like to obviously have barrels made in this country, but it's not quite possible at the moment with the volume and the pricing that we are getting at this point in time. So again, that's what we're waiting on, plus the adapters for the 9mm magazines. We have one, we're waiting for the Glock 1 to be quoted and start production on that. But at the end of the day, it will be the time that it takes for us to get a quantity of 9mm barrels here so that we can put the 9mm together for you. Also, since the last update, the position of parts are all quoted and being put in production, with the exception, as I said before, of barrels. So no matter what we do, the barrels are going to be the part that gives us the timeline for the 9mm production. It is also holding us up on the pricing of where we think we're going to end up with it. As you will have noticed, since Mr. Trump has taken back the United States of America presidency, our dollar has diminished in value again. So we always have to keep our eye on that as to when we push the button. And so please be aware that there are many things that are taking up our time, filling our minds up, giving us lots of grief, but also lots of fun in terms of this exercise of putting these two guns together. So where are we with New South Wales in terms of categorisation of the Eureka? At our last update, we mentioned that our solicitor was going to write to the registry, and that has been done. And we asked for all the information that made them come back to us saying that we most likely had a prohibited firearm and they wouldn't categorise it. So since then, there's been a response from the registry in New South Wales, their solicitor, and I'm not going to read the whole letter, but it'll probably be up behind me while I'm reading this. But paragraph 3 is interesting. So from the solicitor, the Firearms Registry understands that the Eureka Stockade model firearm is a centre-fire rifle and operates using a self-ejecting lever release mechanism. So it is a repeating firearm and is not a self-loading firearm. Based on the above information, the Eureka Stockade model firearm appears to be within the category of centre-fire rifle other than self-loading. See Firearms Act 1996, Section 8, Paragraph 1, Category B licence. However, Paragraph 4 continues, the Firearm Registry has concerns that the Eureka Stockade model firearm may be a prohibited firearm under the Firearms Act 1996, Section 4(1), definition of a prohibited firearm. In particular, the Eureka Stockade model firearm substantially duplicates in appearance the AR-15, M16, M4, L403A1 platform of self-loading and select fire military firearms. I don't understand how it can appear to be a Category B firearm and then also appear to be a prohibited firearm. It can only be one or the other. Now, it goes on to talk about stock and stocks, and we've put together a further submission that's going back to them. So they've opened up the door to talk and bring this to hopefully a positive conclusion when we give them a little bit more substance. So it is important that everybody knows that these opinions that people have in government are purely subjective. When they do not have any clarity in the Act itself, no definitions, no standards, it makes it very difficult. So an individual makes an assumption or makes a determination on the basis that knowing we have to fight it and to get the appropriate answer. We've asked them for information so that we could have a judicial review, and which I believe prompted the response that we got from the government solicitor and has reopened the door with respect to negotiating with the Weapons Registry in New South Wales. So that information will be sent to them by the end of this week, and trust that we will have a fruitful discussion and meaningful response, and also a positive outcome, to which we will love to get back to you and let you know in due course. So thank you very much for watching this update, and your comments, of course, are always welcome, and we do read them, we take them to heart, and we think you should keep them coming. So any information or any assistance that we can give, we'll do our best to make it happen for you. So until next time, this is Rick Casagrande.